So the police who assassinated Alexis Grigoropoulos, what's the role of the police? The role of the police is to maintain order. And what is that order? That order is an order of class hierarchy. The order maintained by the university is largely the same, class hierarchy. And so I thought I would spend a couple of minutes to talk about the class hierarchy at the university. The basic task of capitalist society is to reproduce the existing social relations of exploiter and exploited in a context of fundamentally antagonistic contradiction. Such relationships are obviously political, the antagonistic relations between the exploiter class and the exploited, the dominant class, and the dominated. These are political relations. Now, these antagonistic relations cannot be eliminated in capitalism. They revolve around it. Rather, what capitalism tries to do is constrain these relations, to keep them contained by a range of political tactics. These tactics range from ideology to force. Ideologically, systems are created to make these oligarchical and authoritarian institutions in capitalism, to make them appear to be democratic. So ideologically, one thing capitalism does is try to take what are essentially authoritarian relations and make them appear to be, in some sense, democratic. In the larger society, that's accomplished mainly through the ritual of elections, dropping a piece of paper in a box every so often, and the formal equality of rights and liberties. Running parallel with ideology is a consumer culture which substitutes materialism for spiritual experience and egoism for human solidarity. Now, when political culture or consumer culture fails, when either of those strategies fails, making people believe there's democracy or buying people off with cheap goods, going to the movies, what have you. When that fails, either through inefficient management of images or language or the inefficient management of institutions, or when it fails through a refusal by the exploited to accept the terms of capitalism and the police, then forces are employed, as in the case of Alex Grigoropoulos or Oscar Grant in Oakland. But as Marx said, capitalism is its own grave digger. Just as the rich in this country were able to regain nearly all the wealth they lost during the New Deal period, just as they succeeded in managing a $3 trillion bailout of their own banks, just as they succeeded in electing their first black president to office, just as they did this, the political culture and consumer culture are beginning to fail. And we see that in a variety of instances, especially I think we see that at the university, with the occupations that are occurring and other actions that are occurring on campuses around California. So let's talk a bit about class in the university. Many students in the university and their families are working class. They live in the bottom 20% of the income spectrum. The professoriate on the campuses are solidly middle class. $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 salaries and benefits. Presidents, my president, not my president, the president of state, President John Welty, makes about $300,000 a year. That places him well above the top 1%. The chancellor at $1 million a year, and some of you see presidents at millions of dollars a year living in the top fraction of 1% of the income spectrum. So that's something sort of about income inequality on the campus. But class really relates to means of production in terms of control. It's not really so much how much money you make, it's the power that you have and the control that you have. Most of the professors, if we want to be quite honest about it, are deathly afraid of deans, associate deans, vice presidents. Most of the professors, if you'll be honest, you've heard them express their fear at speaking up because of the repercussions. They don't want to lose their $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000 salary or benefits, and you can't necessarily blame them. Chancellor, well, he's like God, right? He lives in some other place somewhere. And no one can approach him, no one can sort of say his name. He exists in some netherworld. He calls the shots that the presidents and senior administration follow. The students are meant to learn how to quake in their boots at the thought of not turning the paper on time. and losing their chance at middle-class status that the professors enjoy. So the basic element is fear, right? It's fear. The faculty fear the administration, students fear the faculty, and the class relations of capitalism are reproduced, and that's the whole point. So the students need to accommodate themselves to the structures of social relations on campus that they can flow into on graduation, the corporate structures they're going to work in. And of course, as I think I've made clear, these structures are sort of evident on the campus. The lines of authority on the campus are much like the lines of authority in a corporation, with fear dominating the field. What universities produce primarily is the docility of the corporate functioning unit. This is ideological in terms of resigning oneself to the authoritarianism of everyday life in a corporation. It is also physiological and psychological, the conditioning of a person to perform at high levels of efficiency, especially in completing somewhat more abstract tasks.